Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and we're going to talk about finishing ortho cases, specifically finishing aligner cases. I'm going to kind of focus more towards Invisalign just because they have some features that other ones don't have that make it a little bit easier. So I've done a few other videos on virtual IPR / virtual power chain. You want to watch those videos first, otherwise this video isn't going to make sense because it's going to build on that. If you want to watch those videos first, put a pause on this, go back to my YouTube channel, which is Straightsmile Solutions. When you go there, it'll have a green banner. Once you're within my channel, you can go across the tabs at the top. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you might have to, it might be hidden. So you have to keep going top right until you go to the very last tab, which looks like a little magnifying glass. Once they're there, you can put in those keywords, virtual IPR or virtual power chain, or I might have used the acronym VPC. Watch those first. All right, I'm assuming you've watched them. So now I'm gonna go ahead and build on that. So the question that came in today is, can you explain a little bit more about virtual or ghost IPR and exactly how it works step by step? So obviously, let's say we have a case, it's looking awesome. Remember, anytime you're doing a case, be it braces or aligners, your first step is level and align. So the arches are level, we've got perfect vertical, we've got perfectly straight teeth, we love all that. Nice class 1 or however we wanted to finish it, that's all done. So our transverse, however we want to finish, is fixed. Our AP or our sagittal is fixed. Our vertical is fixed. Our first order alignment is done. Ins and outs, ups and downs. We're really happy with all that. The only thing we really kind of don't like perhaps, is maybe we go through with floss, check all the contacts. I want to have a catch on all the contacts. Assuming that's your plan, unless you're planning to do restorative. Little open contacts in the front is not a problem, as long as the patient is aware of it and doesn't mind it, and as long as the doctor doesn't mind it either. Maybe you're planning to do restorative, maybe you're not. I don't have an issue with that. Open contacts in the back is a problem, and a lot of that's also going to depend on what type of retention you're going to do. In the olden days, we always had open contacts at the end because we were doing bands on premolars and molars, and we used wraparound hollies or bonded retainers and let things settle and tighten in, and they did over time if you gave it time. And you can still do that too if you want to. You can use a wraparound or circumferential holly, and as long as your patient wears it 24/7, it will close those spaces. But a lot of patients aren't going to do that. They're just thinking they're going to go straight into an Essex. What you can't do is you can't go straight from loose contacts in the back into an Essex, or straight into loose contacts in the back into a Vivera. Why? Because you're basically preventing those contacts from ever closing, and you're permanently cementing perio traps, which is terrible for the patient. Down the road, this is a liability for you. You cannot do that. So you can finish in a wraparound holly. You can try to finish in a bonded retainer, and usually the contacts will settle and close. Can't promise though, but you could do a bonded retainer in the front and a wraparound holly in the back. A wraparound holly has no wires that cover the occlusal plane. You have to use a really good lab to make it. It has to be really good. I have one, it's amazing, it's very tight, but you have to have a really good scan. You have to have third molars out. You have to get all the way behind those second molars. So if you don't have a really good scan or you don't have third molars out, that's not gonna work. And again, you should look up my videos on circumferential retainers or wraparound hollies to make sure you know how to design that properly. Otherwise, it's not going to work to close spaces. A positioner is a great option. I have a lot of videos on positioners. Custom mini positioner, about $350. You can order from TP Ortho. They have the patent on that. Been around for 50 years, but works great at closing itty bitty tiny spaces. You only have to wear it 14 to 16 hours a day. Chew on it when you're home. Don't have to wear it to work. Works great to close tiny spaces. Let's say you want to finish those spaces in Invisalign. You paid for the unlimited. You paid for the comprehensive. You got another 2 years. Why not, do it for free? We don't want to pay for a big lab fee, and you want to go straight into Vivera. That's totally fine. But you're going to go ahead and have to do something tricky. So I call this virtual or ghost IPR. That means we're doing a refinement, not to straighten teeth, not to fix the bite. All we're doing is tightening up those itty bitty spaces. Now, virtual power chain, for the most part, it's unpredictable, okay? So it's squeezing a little bit tighter like a power chain would in braces. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Watch all my videos on VPC before you even consider doing it, because it can cause more trouble than it's worth. It's not really my go-to thing. I sometimes will build it into spacing cases, and I may or may not use it at the end. If you use it and you don't need it, you will get crowding. So if you got to this point and everything's perfectly straight, why take the risk and do VPC? Because you might have to, it might make things worse, right? I'd rather you just use ghost IPR or virtual IPR. That is where you're gonna go ahead and scan the case. You're gonna write on a piece of paper all those loose, sloppy, or open contacts. You've got one between 2 and 3, one between 11 and 12. Write them down, okay? Chart them. Then you're gonna go ahead and scan and submit. You're gonna say nothing. You're gonna say just please close spaces. That's gonna be your instructions, and work towards previous plan. That's it. That's all you're gonna say. Then when the Clincheck comes back, you're gonna double check, you're gonna cross check the spaces that you felt, the loose contacts, versus what they picked up. You can even tell them where the open space is if you want, nothing wrong with doing that, okay? You wanna make sure every space that you felt, or every loose contact that you felt, shows up with a 0.1 or a 0.2, or at least a 0.1, okay? If you don't see that 0.1 in a space, then ask for IPR between that space. So let's say there's a 0.1 here, but let's say there was a loose contact here. I'm not sure what tooth that is. Or pretend like that's 2021, I don't know what it is. Please do 0.1 millimeters of IPR between 20 and 21. Don't say virtual IPR, just say IPR, okay? Now when the case comes back, you're not gonna do the IPR. You're not gonna do anything. Now if it's a bigger space, if it's like really like open, well, that's an issue. You might wanna rescan, okay? I'm talking about for loose contacts. That's all I'm talking about it. This is for 0.1. So when it comes back, you're not gonna do the IPR. You're just gonna deliver the aligner. And then that's it. So basically it's gonna work just like this did. It just didn't pick up the space. You could always add the VPC onto that plan. Say, please add VPC. Just remember VPC, you never deliver unless you need. One tray at a time. You don't send it home with the patient. You wait till you finish the aligners. Do the same thing you just did. And if you feel some loose contacts that are in the front, then and everything's straight, I don't mind you giving one set of VPC trays, have the patient come back, check again. Everything's still straight, maybe it's good. You can repeat or keep going. That means every week they gotta come in during the VPC phase. If you by accident give it to them and they don't need it, you will get crowding and you'll start all over again, okay? So that's how virtual IPR works. I know it's a little bit frustrating, which is why sometimes I like the wraparound Holly/positioner method. It's way easier. It's like set it and forget it. But those are different options to fixing open contacts. All right, thanks so much.